Hey, sports card fans, it's John Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. Today, I'm going to take a look at the top 10 PSA vintage baseball card sales on eBay for cards from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s for the month of June 2024. For June, for cards from the 1950s, there are a couple cards that don't usually show up on these top 10 lists, and the card at the number 1 spot might surprise you. For cards from the 1960s, there's a pretty good range of cards that show up on the list. And for cards from the 1970s, again, a good variety of cards with a few that hit new record highs. Now, before I get to the top 10 lists, if you see an asterisk next to the current VCP average price for that card, it means that that particular eBay sale is not in VCP's database and therefore was not part of the calculation for the current average price. All right, with that, let's go check out the cards. Let's start off with the cards from the 1950s. At number 10, we have this 1952 Topps Willie Mays in a PSA 4. This one sold on June 18th for $9,500. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 4 is $6,842. The record high sale was $20,400 back in August of 2021 through REA, and again in July of 2022 through PWCC. At number 9, we have this 1953 Topps Jackie Robinson in a PSA 7. This one sold on June 3rd for $10,201. It was an auction. There were 46 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 7 is $8,803. The record high sale was $25,200 back in February of 2021 through Heritage. At number 8, we have this 1954 Topps Hank Aaron in a PSA 6. This one sold on June 29th for $10,678. It was an auction. There were 18 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 6 is $8,670. The record high sale was $18,143 back in March of 2021 through Huggins and Scott. Now, there were 4 other significant 54 Topps Hank Aaron cards sold in June. One was a PSA 6.5 that sold on June 16th for $10,500, a PSA 6 that sold on June 9th for $9,088, another PSA 6 that sold on June 12th for $8,700, and finally another PSA 6 that sold on June 24th for $7,800. At number 7, we have this 1953 Bowman Mickey Mantle in a PSA 8. This one sold on June 22nd for $14,300. It was an auction. There were 23 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $14,992, but the record high sale was $25,063 back in September of 2022 through Memory Lane. At number 6, we have this 1951 Bowman Willie Mays in a PSA 5. This one sold on June 18th for $14,989. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price for a PSA 5 is $14,550. The record high sale was $32,100 back in March of 2021 through eBay. Now, there were 2 other significant 1951 Bowman Willie Mays sales in June. One was a PSA 4 that sold on June 23rd for $8,800, and a PSA 3.5 that sold on June 4th for $8,360. At number 5, we have this 1953 Bowman Whitey Ford in a PSA 8. This one sold on June 30th for $15,000. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price is $12,900. The record high sale, though, was $25,000 back in July of 2022 through eBay. Now, the population count of this PSA 8 is one of 37 copies. There are only 3 that have been graded a PSA 9, and none have been graded a PSA 10. At number 4, we have this 1952 Topps Jackie Robinson in a PSA 6. This one sold on June 9th for $19,525. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 6 is $21,482. The record high sale was $40,300 back in March of 2021 through a PWCC listing on eBay. Now, there were 2 other significant 52 Topps Jackie Robinson sales in June. Another PSA 6 sold on June 27th for $14,544, and a PSA 4 sold on June 4th for $10,100. At number 3, we have this 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle in an authentic altered grade. This one sold on June 25th for $19,999. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price for an authentic copy is $30,423. The record high sale, though, was for another authentic altered copy that sold for $81,600 back in May of 2023 through Golden. There was one other 52 Topps Mickey Mantle that sold in June, another authentic altered copy. This one sold on June 24th for $12,601. At number 2, we have this 1951 Bowman Mickey Mantle in a PSA 5. This one sold on May 23rd for $28,500. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 5 is $23,554. The record high sale was $55,100 back in March of 2021 through eBay. Now, there were 2 other significant 51 Bowman Mickey Mantle sales in June. One a PSA 3 that sold on June 25th for $15,399. And there was a PSA 4 that sold for less on June 24th for $13,100. But as you can see, the registration is a little off there, so it's not surprising that that copy, based on its eye appeal, sold for less than that other PSA 3 copy. And at number 1 for the 1950s, we have this 1956 Topps Willie Mays Grayback in a PSA 9. This one sold on June 15th for $33,100. It was an auction. There were 75 bids, and this sale is the current VCP average price. The record high sale, though, was $44,400 back in February of 2021 through Heritage. Now, this PSA 9 copy is one of 33 graded copies at that grade, and there have been no PSA 10s. All right, on to the cards from the 1960s. At number 10, we have this 1968 Topps Nolan Ryan rookie card in a PSA 7. This one sold on June 23rd for $4,174. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 7 is $2,893. The record high sale was $5,955, sold in February of 2021 through eBay. Now, there was one other significant 68 Topps Nolan Ryan rookie card sale in June, another PSA 7 copy that sold on June 16th for $2,799. At number 9, we have this 1964 Topps Pete Rose in a PSA 8. This one sold on June 14th for $4,200. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $3,080. The record high sale, though, was $7,500 back in April of 2023 through REA. At number 8, we have this 1967 Topps Venezuela copy of the Roberto Clemente card in a PSA 1.5. This one sold on June 22nd for $4,395. It was an auction. There were 40 bids, and this is the current average price for a PSA 1 because this is the only recorded sale of a PSA 1.5. There are only 2 that have been graded a PSA 1.5, and only 6 copies have been graded higher, the highest grading in at a PSA 5.5. At number 7, we have this 1968 Topps Joe Morgan in a PSA 10. This one sold on June 8th for $4,495. It was a buy it now. The current average VCP price for a PSA 10 is $3,997. The record high sale was $8,460 back in October of 2021 through SCP auctions. Now, there have been 120 graded a PSA 9, but this copy here is one of only 10 that have been graded a PSA 10. At number 6, we have this 1963 Topps Pete Rose rookie card in a PSA 7. This one sold on June 4th for $4,500. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price for a PSA 7 is $3,723. The record high sale was $8,500 back in July of 2021 through a PWCC listing on eBay, and in November of 2021 through eBay. At number 5, we have this 1968 Topps Johnny Bench rookie card in a PSA 9. This one sold on June 15th for $5,300. It was an auction. There were 41 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $5,015. The record high sale, though, was $11,500 back in March of 2021 through eBay. There have been 217 copies graded a PSA 9. Only 17 have been graded a PSA 10. At number 4, we have this 1965 Topps Hank Aaron in a PSA 9. This one sold on June 16th for $5,489. It was an auction. There were 54 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $4,958. The record high sale was $7,275 back in June of 2016 through a PWCC listing on eBay. Now, there have been 107 copies graded a PSA 9. There have only been 3 graded a PSA 10. At number 3, we have this 1969 Topps Pete Rose All-Star card in a PSA 10. This one sold on June 30th for $5,700. It was an auction. There were 36 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 10 is $5,251. The record high sale was $8,101 back in September of 2013 through eBay. There have been 90 graded a PSA 9, but this copy here is one of only 6 that have been graded a PSA 10. At number 2, we have this 1969 Topps Reggie Jackson rookie card in a PSA 8.5. This one sold on June 11th for $14,688. It was an auction. There were 59 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8.5 is $12,650. The record high sale was $19,200 back in November of 2023 through Heritage. Now, there was one other significant 69 Topps Reggie Jackson rookie card. This one, a PSA 8 that sold on June 24th for $4,200. And the number one card from the 1960s is this 1964 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 9. This one sold on June 15th for $23,655. It was an auction. There were 62 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $29,410. The record high sale, though, was $68,125 back in October of 2021 through PWCC. This copy here is one of only 43 that have been graded a PSA 9. There's only been one graded a PSA 10. Now, there was one other significant 64 Topps Mickey Mantle sale in June. This one, a PSA 8 that sold on June 8th for $3,350. On to the cards from the 1970s. At number 10, we have this 1972 Topps Carl Yastrzemski in a PSA 10. This one sold on June 6th for $4,275. It was an auction. There were 32 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 10 is $4,275. The record high sale was $6,666 back in September of 2022 through memory lane. Now, while there has been 230 graded a PSA 9, this is only one of 12 copies that has been graded a PSA 10. At number 9, we have the 1971 Topps Nolan Ryan in a PSA 8.5. This one sold on June 9th for $4,331. It was an auction. There were 24 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8.5 is this sale here at $4,331. The record high sale was $5,150 back in May of 2021 through a PWCC listing on eBay. Now, in a PSA 8.5, there have been 27 graded copies. There have been 31 graded a PSA 9, and none have been graded a PSA 10. At number 8, we have this 1978 O-Pee-Chee Rod Carew in a PSA 10. This one sold on June 23rd for $4,555. It was an auction. There were 34 bids. And this is the current VCP average price and actually the only known sale of a PSA 10. It appears to be a newer slab, a newer graded copy. There have been 13 graded a PSA 9. This is the only PSA 10 graded copy. At number 7, we have this 1971 Topps Pete Rose in a PSA 8.5. This one sold on June 9th for $4,825. It was an auction. There were 30 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8.5 is $5,053. The record high sale was $11,500 back in August of 2022 through eBay. Now, in a PSA 8.5, there have been 15 graded copies. 16 have been graded a PSA 9, and only one has been graded a PSA 10. At number 6, we have this 1976 Topps Frank Tavares in a PSA 10. This one sold on June 23rd for $5,000. It was an auction. There were 2 bids. The current VCP average price is this $5,000 sale and is a new record high for this 76 Topps Frank Tavares. The only other sale of a PSA 10 was $1,550 back in December of 2019 through eBay. Now, there have been 47 copies graded a PSA 9. This is one of only 2 that have been graded a PSA 10. At number 5, we have this 1975 Topps George Brett rookie card in a PSA 9. This one sold on June 30th for $5,400. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $5,191. The record high sale was $8,562 back in July of 2021 through memory lane. Now there have been 325 copies graded a PSA 9, only 11 have been graded a PSA 10. At number 4, we have this 1979 Topps Paul Molitor in a PSA 10. This one sold on June 23rd for $8,811. It was an auction. There were 29 bids, and that is the current VCP average price. The record high sale, though, was $12,300 back in February of 2020 through eBay. Now, there have been 133 cards graded a PSA 9. This is one of only 4 that have been graded a PSA 10. At number 3, we have this 1977 Topps Steve Garvey in a PSA 10. This one sold on June 16th for $9,585. It was an auction. There were 26 bids. The current VCP average price for PSA 10 is $3,506, so this sale here represents a new record high for a PSA 10. The previous record high was that VCP average price, $3,506 back in May of 2021 through eBay. There have been 131 cards graded a PSA 9. This is one of only 5 that have been graded a PSA 10. At number 2, we have this 1979 Topps Dennis Eckersley in a PSA 10. This one sold on June 23rd for $9,990. It was an auction. There were 26 bids. There is no current VCP average price, as this is the only known sale through eBay in a PSA 9. There have been 30 copies. This is the only one to have received a PSA 10 grade. And the number 1 card for the month of June for the 1970s, we have this 1971 Topps Ken Boswell in a PSA 10. So hard to find 71 Topps cards in that highest grade. This one sold on June 16th for $12,655. It was an auction. There were 22 bids, and this is the current VCP average price and a new record high sale for the Ken Boswell card. The previous high was only $1,999 back in May of 2008 through eBay. There have been 30 cards graded a PSA 9. This one here is one of only 2 that have been graded a PSA 10. But there you go, the top 10 PSA vintage baseball card sales on eBay for cards from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s for June 2024. As always, would love to know in the comments what you think about the cards that made the top 10 lists. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.